Австралийн Welcome.
Сайн байцгаана уу хүн үзэгчтэй. Өнөөдөр ороо манай дефакто нэвтрүүлгийн зочноор Мобиком компани гүйцэтгэх захирал Ноён Дэвид Холлидэй оролцож байна. Good evening.
Сайн байна уу?
Сайн байна уу. Please tell us about the current, describe or give a short outlook glimpse of Mobicom today. What is this about?
Well, Mobicom today has reached a 20-year point, and we're very pleased to have come this far. We're also very pleased to have negotiated with the authorities to renew our license for 20 years. And for us, this is very good, because what this means is we can now do much more long-term investment planning. And we can start these major infrastructure projects, which we've been looking to do.
So another 20 years, they give extend for another 20 years.
That's right. So Mobicom's future is more secure now.
Is it so for every telecom company? When they give 20 years?
I guess when people's licenses come up, they will also have licenses extended.
Okay. 20 years of Mobicom life or history, service is somehow part of our life, the society, and cannot imagine without a cell phone. You are the first company to introduce. And how do you see next 20 years?
Well, we've seen such a lot of change in the first 20 years. We used to call them talking bricks, if you remember. They were very big phones. And we have now evolved where we just have moved from a need to use the phone for voice calling only when necessary, very economically, to being connected all the time. And some people today can't imagine not being connected to their friends and family, and indeed to people outside Mongolia.
It's like no oxygen.
Yes.
Almost.
And this is a phenomenon that's really growing very quickly. As an example, Jargul, the data growth that we've seen in Mobicom has been 100% in the last 12 months.
Okay.
And so this is what I was referring to when I said infrastructure. And not just Mobicom, but other companies also are struggling now to keep up with the demands that customers are putting on us for data. And this requires significant investment. We're talking millions of dollars.
See, for the country like Mongolia, it's 17th largest territory in the world, yet 3 million people. And what you do, telecom operators, are sort of, it's a part of and parcel of our life. And the people yet to be more connected, because once it's started, the people demand more. So about this data service, how do you find this level of data service compared to demand today?
Well, we are seeing 3G, which is the current, maybe I ought to explain 3G, 2G.
Yeah, please.
So when we first started, it was a very basic service, and you could dial a number. It didn't even have memory, and it was very basic. Then SMS came out. And this is generally, retrospectively now known as 2G.
Okay.
The third generation of services incorporated big data. So this was what we call 3G. And this, for the first time, allowed us to send pictures between each other. Pictures were not possible before. And then as 3G got more and more powerful, as compression technology with frequencies became more and more attainable, then we could send moving pictures. And this is when we really started to get the breakthrough. We had TV on mobile phones, and now we're moving into a world of 4G. And 4G takes us into a world where a lot of things are going to happen. it's going to be about having 3 screens. The screen that you have in front of you, many people have in front of you, the computer screen, the screen on your mobile phone, and the screen you have at home to relax. And these 3 screens, normally the screen at home was just about TV programs, and the screen at work was a computer, and this was to make phone calls. But now they're becoming interchangeable. You can watch TV on your phone. You can watch TV on your home computer. You can make calls from your computer. You can even make calls from your TV. So more and more people are becoming more and more connected with devices that are throughout their life, a part of their life now. And so, as I said before, the infrastructure that supports all of this, because it doesn't happen by magic, it needs to be invested in, and we need to operationalize it. And so when 4G comes to Mongolia, and we will be demonstrating 4G at the expo, which is on, you may have seen that already, we will see very, very fast downloads. For example, movies which you now download at a matter of minutes to download a full movie will now take 30 seconds maximum.
Wow.
Yeah, it's incredible. And this will allow not only consumers to make better use of their time, but businesses now can download big tender documents and big bids from around the world.
Yes.
In no time at all.
When you think the 4G, as you described, will be in a full swing in this country?
Well, I understand from the CRC and the ITPTA that it's their intent to start issuing licenses later this year, perhaps in Q4.
Why they would give a license for new technology? Wow, what makes, where is the benefit?
Oh, okay, right. Well, because the state has every state around the world has 2 valuable assets in the telecoms market. Mm-hmm. One is numbering, numbers are finite, mm-hmm. and one is frequency, radio frequency, mm-hmm. and that's finite as well. Anything else it's okay, you don't mm-hmm. really, or you shouldn't need a license for. So it requires that finite resource to be regulated and properly governed. Mm-hmm. And so to avoid people getting mixed up signals and mm-hmm. to make sure the public gets proper service from mm-hmm. these technologies, mm-hmm. which use a separate frequency, mm-hmm. It has to be very sure when the government issues these licenses that there won't be any interference with anything.
With Mobicom 3G frequency, you will still use on that frequency 4G, or it's different matter?
We will still use 3G frequency, but what we will do is, if you can imagine, it's like if I can use it, a piece of bread, mm-hmm. and we have some butter, mm-hmm. and we spread the butter all over the country. This is 2G.
Okay.
On top of the 3G, on top of that, we put 3G.
Okay.
In the places where it's needed, because 3G signals don't travel very far.
I see.
And so it's only put where it's needed. Now we're going to put 4G on top of that, and it will disperse, hopefully, it will disperse the 3G more and more into the rural areas.
Okay, sort of extension in a way.
Yes, and it will help to bridge the digital divide between rural folk and city folk.
Well, speaking about this digital divide, which is happening anyway, everywhere, all around the world, and every country is trying to combat with that. What will be your corporate social responsibility to combat with this digital divide in Mongolia?
Well, the best thing that we can do in terms of that is on our own. It will be just like other companies will do, I hasten to add, not just Mobicom. We will invest in technology, and this will require huge investment, tens and tens of millions of dollars, billions and billions of tukrug. And what we will do is to introduce 4G to displace the 3G. And that displaced 3G technology and base stations, which we see, will literally be dismantled, and it will be taken out into the rural area, and we will reconnect it in the rural areas. That in turn will displace 2G. So now rural SUMs, IMAGs, BAGs, they will now have much more readily accessible access to data. And they will therefore be able to enjoy a much better standard of life than they had before.
So you are getting more everybody reaching that access or connectivity.
Yes.
On the other side of telecom, like we live in digital world, there is a concern about privacy and to protect the privacy of your customer. Through that also safety and security of customer is a key in social responsibility.
Yes.
What are you doing in this regard?
Well, as the devices we use become more and more sophisticated, as you probably know, and as every smartphone user probably knows, we are, all of us, me, you, entering private information into our devices.
All the time.
Passwords, bank account numbers.
Yes.
And it's a concern. And so Mobicom takes this very seriously. And I can't answer for what other companies do, but all I know is what we do. And we make sure that we are certified to the highest international standards. And the team from Germany comes out every year, part of the ISO standards organization, and goes through our entire company and checks us. And so we meet these levels of data security and general security and process that they require. So it's a hard job because...
so you are certified,
yes.
verified by independent...
Yes, it's a world standard.
And they come and check how you are taking care of your security.
That's correct.
There is some concern that maybe my phone is hurt, somebody is, a spy or something. This sort of common from old time echoing rumor or conversation is there. How you would address that issue?
Well, we don't store calls, you'll be pleased to hear. In fact, no mobile operator or telecoms operator stores or records calls. No mobile operator stores or keeps the contents of SMSs.
Is it because impossible or is
it's impossible. You would need several aircraft hangars to keep all the data.
So what you are saying very clearly that the people's phone conversation and SMS never stored with you.
No.
Probably with all
all it's the same for all other operators, I have to say.
Okay, so.
But of course, there is a case, and if there is any threat of terrorism or if there is any criminal activity, which we insist is stamped by a judge.
But this by our law.
Of course, it's the law.
Yeah,
it's only and only in those circumstances will we ever allow any kind of access to customer data.
Okay, there was a law adopted a couple of years ago that if needed, they can hear the conversations.
Well, that's the whole point. If needed, if there is a reason, and if they have a properly stamped order by a judge, then the law says that they can do that.
Somebody is coming, and listening and watching with your because they cannot do without your permission. They give you permission to listen to you work, and then for that, say technically, just one operator is enough, or 2-3 people, different passwords needed to go into that detail?
It's kept to the fewest people possible. It's just one technician, and the access is very strictly timed, and it's very strictly controlled.
So you know for sure if there is any access then you can know.
Well, we've got into trouble ourselves because we've actually rejected judges' orders in the past because they don't look like they've got the proper stamp on.
Yes, I see. So we have talked about now your Mobicom. Let's talk a little bit about telecom industry in Mongolia. You have been working in many Asian and African countries. In some cases, you were creating the industry, driving the industry. And how do you see the industry today in Mongolia overall compared with these countries you have been working?
Well, I think Mongolia is at a very exciting stage because Mongolia has reached penetration quite early, and we now have over 100% penetration. And people might say, well, if you've got 100% penetration, everybody who needs a phone has a phone, so that's it. Not so. Other countries, let me give you an example, the UAE, where Dubai is, Abu Dhabi, their penetration is nearly 200%.
So basically it means everybody has at least 2 phones.
Yeah, that's right. Yes. Well, devices anyway.
Oh, devices,
yeah.
Yes.
Because many people nowadays have more than one device. They have a telephone and they may have a computer or an iPad.
Yes. So that person has 3
that's correct.
Devices.
That's correct, yeah. Maybe one phone for work and one phone for personal use as well. And so what happens is when you get this kind of access, to particularly to smartphones, and in the UAE, the penetration of smartphones is nearly 100%.
Okay.
And
what is, by the way, penetration of smartphone in Mongolia?
It's about 20%.
It's that low.
Yeah.
So it's still to grow.
Yeah.
Which means out of 100% of the ordinary cell phone, only 20 is a smartphone.
That's right.
Wow, it's still a lot to grow then.
That's right. So this is what I was saying, that when we bring in this high-end 4G phones, it will displace 3G technology, which will become cheaper and cheaper, and we can push it out into the rural districts where it can become more and more affordable. And this is why it's important that not only Mobicom but other companies invest in the technology and the infrastructure to start this process moving.
Do they invest?
Yes.
Is it true Unitel is now #1 operator on the market?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Okay.
But everyone, if I may,
yes.
you know, all the market has grown and all operators have grown. And that's a good thing for everybody.
And yet still to grow a lot, 20% smartphone sounds poor for me. I thought it's way higher. In particular, half of the population of the country is under 30 years old. Everybody use phone.
Oh, in the 30-year-old demographic, yes, maybe it's 50%.
That's 50%.
Yeah, perhaps even more.
Okay.
But in general.
Now, why I'm asking this question is, with this, our final aim is not to have the smartphone in hand. We want to use it.
Yeah.
To use it for government service, home service, whatever, utilities around. Compared with that potential, how do we use that smartphone?
That's a very good question. And you mentioned government. I was actually looking at the website of the UAE, because we've been talking about e-government in this country, Mongolia.
Well, we keep talking a lot.
We do. And let me just give you an example. Mongolia ranks number 65 in the world on e-government. However, there's only 2 or 3 applications that we can use when we log on to the e-government site. And by contrast, I looked at the UAE government web pages. There's 60 pages of titles alone and of what you can do. It's fascinating. There's everything from applying for a driving license, paying a parking fine, to booking in for vascular surgery. It's unbelievable. And I think this is the way that countries like Mongolia can leapfrog over so-called developed nations, because developed nations have made many mistakes getting to where they are now.
A good example is I was recently in the US. There is you pay for a car, taximeter nearby the roads, but they don't use anymore. Can you imagine how much they have invested? But now what they do is just take a phone and put location.
That's right.
And pay it.
Yes.
And that's it. And without any paper, they leave.
Yeah.
The inspector comes, opens, and look at this and time, and then there is no communication. Nothing happens. And as you say, then without not putting all this stuff, we can just jump to that level.
Exactly. And I think that's what's going to happen. People, for example, they shouldn't need cash anymore to get on a bus. They should just be able to wave their phone over the entrance at the bus.
But yet there are city offices installing expensive equipments now in each bus, and one needs to either card or something. Instead, I thought that they would read the phone.
Well, it's called NFC, Near Frequency Communications.
Okay.
And you can have a card or you can have it in your phone. So it's either or.
So in our bus cases, the two?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that sounds good.
That's right. And taxis as well.
Таалагдж байна уу? Гоё юм байна. Яндаа нэвэл авч болно шүү дээ. Сууч.
Яндаа та 9-7 хоног урамшуулалт аян хэллээ. Мобиком.
Zuki, way of life.
Oh, isn't it?
It should be in taxes.
By the way, recently there was our Ministry of Social Care suggested that they will make a card, some card, in which there will be separate also a chip about your health care situation with your health, like in many countries. But we would think that we have in our ID, citizens' ID, we have a small chip. Initially, we were talking that there are 3 rooms inside. Why they wouldn't use this one instead of creating a new one? Why I should carry 2 cards?
I don't know the answer to that. Certainly,
principally it should be
possible. For example, of course it can. Mobicom has just installed these ID readers at all of its shops.
Okay.
So instead of customers now having to laboriously fill out all the forms, we can just swipe your card and take the necessary details.
Swipe my ID card with a Mobicom. So it's very quick.
It's easy
now.
for you, you just have to sign.
Yes.
So we try and make it a lot quicker and easier for customers to work with Mobicom.
That's great. And there are many other services we talked about the governance, applying for whatever service you need. All right, and even if you need a physical passport, you can do it, apply it, and they can bring it.
These are basic services that
well, now
should be
instead
here.
we all the way go to that place and a long queue, etc. Okay, please tell us about this ICT Expo. What is this about?
Well, at ICT Expo, Mobicom and all the other telecommunications providers and everyone in the ICT sector is coming together to showcase technologies that will hopefully underpin much of what we've been saying. Our job is to provoke, inspire, and show people how to use technology to benefit them in their daily lives.
And that's what's happening in every country. I think it even at the regional level, at the world level. What is the regional one and what is the top world one in that regard?
For ICT shows? Well, it's rapidly becoming GITEX in the Middle East, and there's also CeBIT in Germany, and there's various shows in the US.
In Mongolia, it's also traditionally happening every year.
Yes.
And run by you telecom operators one by one.
Yes, that's right. We take it in turns to host it in cooperation with the ITPTA and CRC. And this year we're celebrating 150 years of the ITU, International Telecommunications Union. And what I'd like to see personally, Jargal, is I'd like to see the event that we put on here in Mongolia become a regional event where companies from the region come and see the innovation that Mongolia shows off.
Is it possible?
Yes.
China and Russia?
Well, in my short time here, I've been privileged to work with a number of people, certainly in our company, and they've just stunned me with their technical brilliance in terms of IT, networking capability, engineering capability.
That opens a question. If it is the case of one company, whatever good is this company, but if it is a good in case of one company, then it should be in the case of the country.
Of course.
So now we had recently a National Innovation Forum, and now Mongolians talk very in details about innovation using IT. converting knowledge into businesses. Of course, whatever you do, you cannot imagine without ITC, right?
Yeah.
ICT. And in that sense, how do you see the future of Mongolia working with our products for region and for the world? What kind of products we can do? Because these things have no border. We are landlocked, but not mind-locked, right?
Well, that's the beauty of the world we live in today. Even if for a country that's landlocked, it doesn't have to be isolated. We've got pipes coming into Mongolia from all over the world. We can communicate with all over the world. And we have some fantastic things that we haven't started to explore properly yet. I was talking about the innovative minds of our Mongolian youth and their ability in IT. All around the world now, colleges and universities are training coders. Coding program code is the way of the future. We're talking about applications, programs to do things, robotics, all sorts of things. This is where the future lies. And I think Mongolian youth has a massive part to play in that. Take, for example, what happened in India. They replicated Silicon Valley in the US using bright young Indian minds, and now India is one of the coding centers of the world. For me, there's no reason at all why Mongolia cannot do just as well.
For that, what would be the first step, second step? Is it a matter of special program, specialized universities, or it is to start from the secondary school?
It has to start right at the beginning, Jagal. We need to get 10, 11-year-olds into coding, and they need to really start early.
And to understand it as like mathematics, right?
Yes, absolutely. And industry, Mobicom as well, all of us have to play our part. I'd like to see more apprenticeships, internships, offering youngsters a chance to learn IT so that they can then go out and take real-world experience.
What are you doing in this regard in terms of apprenticeship?
Well, in fact, at Expo 2015, one of the things that you probably have seen that we're doing is we're having a competition for young minds that can showcase some of their inventions, and the best inventions will be judged, and we, Mobicom, and other companies will be awarding internships for the lucky winners, and they'll get a fantastic chance to work in class-leading companies in Mongolia, ahead of where they could normally have been.
You know, I have once also visited, along with this theme, your call center. Please tell us about that. I find this fascinating. You know, so many people, young people are working, mainly students, from whenever they have a time. And I also saw physically challenged people also working. And I thought, what a wonderful thing to hire these people for this job and the call center. What does this call center can do for the world, not only for Mongolia? What do you think?
Oh, I think they can do a lot. I mean, I've seen businesses now grow up in countries where people are on the end of a phone which talk you through how to do things. I mean, we take smartphone operation for granted, but there are many people who can't do that. There are many people who buy a microwave oven or a washing machine or a TV or a video recorder. They get it home, no idea how to use it properly. And I'm one of those people sometimes on video recorders. There's now call centers are growing up, helping people and talking them through how to set up a video recorder. They have a screen in front with every video recorder in the world and the instructions, and they help talk people through in a comforting, non-patronizing way. And this is a valuable service. But customers call mobile operators, and it's not just Mobicom, but all industries, and they want something. They mainly, contrary to what you might believe, they don't call up to complain all the time. They mainly call us because they want information. How do I do this? How do I do that?
Yes.
And our job is to make sure that on that call they're satisfied and they get the exact information.
Well, what I mean is not only on the Mobicom service, but what I mean is on anything. Say, if a company, maybe a small company, may have a reception, phone reception,
Yeah.
somewhere in that call center, so that the call center can serve, because you cannot know by phone that person is exactly existing
That's
there
right.
and here.
Well, we do that as well. We provide call center services for companies that aren't large enough to have their own call center services. And as you say, for the public, they never know that they're speaking to someone
Yes.
at Mobicom. One of the other things we've done, which I'm particularly proud of, is that we, together with the government, initiated the 108 Child Helpline.
Yes.
And this has been very successful. Mobicom provided the IT equipment.
Okay.
We provided the call center training. And together with World Vision and UNICEF and other partners, we got
Yes.
this thing mobilized. And in the year since it's been operational, regrettably, it's taken 130,000 calls from children who have been in danger or abused. And 70% of those has resulted in social services or police taking action.
Wow.
And we are very gratified that we've been able to help those children when they've needed it. And it's a free call.
It is, I think, life-changing program, in the case, life-saving program.
This is one example of how ICT can help people's daily lives.
And I also, another one, with your device, we can look at any building in the town,
yes.
and you can say, what is that about?
Well, that's right. Mayor Batul wanted to take some action about how citizens could be empowered to look at buildings and report any buildings that looked faulty or any roadworks that had caused accidents. And we developed a program called Virtual Reality where anybody with a smartphone can download the app and they can pan it around the town, and if you shine it on that building, you can see the building permits it has and any building permits it doesn't have. And if you want to report it, you just press a button and it goes straight through to the mayor's office. And he will take action.
And do they use it now?
Yes, customers do use it. Personally, I think it should be publicized more.
Yeah, he should. Otherwise, we recently found out one 12th-floor building almost. It has some shaky movement. And what happened was next door they dig very deep, big hole, and somebody said that this building is declined. So everybody evacuated to the hotels nearby. So this hole or the future foundation of the building could be displayed on this program.
Yes.
And many other, and we have talked several use of this telecom. Let's talk about a little bit possible help with ICT for senior people. What's going on in that regard? You were in Thailand and Korea. In Korea, young senior people receive very urgent medical aid or connection.
Yes. Well, in many countries now, there are what we call e-health visits. So you have a virtual visit to a doctor. The smartphone, you can see the doctor and the doctor can see you. So the doctor can see some of the more obvious issues. In addition, there are sensors that you can plug into the iPhone, which can take your blood pressure and your pulse.
And send to that doctor.
Send it straight to the doctor. And the doctor can also respond back to your iPhone with the medication that you should go and seek. Similarly, and this is especially useful in vast countries like Mongolia, you can, or you should be able to book in to see a doctor, and the doctor's appointment should be verified back to you so that you know if you have to make a long journey, it's going to be worthwhile and you will see the doctor.
Which is not the case in this country. They
Sometimes
travel
not,
all the way through Ulaanbaatar just to stay for a couple of days in the queue because this insurance system doesn't work all around. And I think it's a matter of coordination of the work. Okay, in that regard, we have talked now about so many projects, things we could do already and will do in the future. How important is here the PPP?
That leads us logically to PPP, yes, of course. And so the PPP, for those who don't know, is public-private partnership. And this is where the private sector comes together with the government and gets really down to the issues that face the country and how that sector and it will be different for different sectors, but how a particular sector, for example ICT, can help the government in its long-term vision for the next 5, 10, 15 years. And certainly for the next 5 years, the private sector can help the government in very concrete terms. Because we often find that, and it has been my experience, that the government sits over here and wonders if their dreams can be realised, the projects can be realised, and private sector sitting over here wanting to do some of those. But when we engage, we find that productivity goes up and people benefit. So I would encourage more dialogue between public and private partnerships so that a master plan can be architected which include the provision of some of these services we've been talking about by a certain date. And I think we should have definite targets.
And we don't?
There are aspirations to get to a certain place in around this time period, but it's not definite.
Well, that's my concern, because we talk a lot. We have young people. We have this the telecom operators. We have potentially everything. But we rather talk too long compared to other countries where every time you go, they're already introducing certain things better, optimizing the optimizing the traffic movement of public buses, they're holding on time, all the bus stop is already digital, when is coming, who is coming. In that sense, do you think that the statistics, with the help of you guys, companies, teleoperators, will be more accurate with all this IT development, which will give better opportunity for predict your businesses based on more precise statistics?
Oh, definitely. There's even a technology now called beacon technology.
Okay.
And this is tiny little micro transmitters in a supermarket, for example, or even in a shoe store. But a supermarket's a typical application. And they're dotted all over. So if you're if you're a customer of a certain store, then when you walk in that store, your phone tells the shop where you are and where you're looking. And if you look at this shelf, how long do you look at that shelf? Do you buy anything from that shelf? And it tracks your movements. And therefore, the supermarket can put things at eye level or things that are fast moving in very obvious places for the customer and do more business.
It's a customer tailored
absolutely
shop service.
And not only that, there's technology now where the shopkeepers can communicate with customers, and they can say, for example, that if it's a shoe shop and it's a Wednesday morning at 11:30 and business is slow, they can send out a message saying the first 2 people that come to the store get 70% off the finest pair of shoes in the store. And what happens is the owner weighs up the cost, because he knows that if his shop fills up with people, which he does, they will buy something.
David, what we have talked is so important. But at the end, all this thing will depend on, in Mongolia, on for telecom operators in the country. What would be your message to other telecom operators in that sense, to make all this happening in this country?
Well, I would say that obviously we're competitors, and competition is good. It's good for the public. But of course there are some things that we cannot talk about because it's competitively private, and that's where our advantage is. That's the free market for you. But there are some things that we should talk about, and that's sharing infrastructure, collaborating as one, as a professional association, for example, with the government, and talking about some of these long-term projects.
That's exactly I would like to ask your competitors, and you do together, which is good for all of us, because all this what we have talked must happen in this country. And I know that your company under your leadership are really working hard, trying to do so, and I wish you good luck. Happy 20th anniversary.
Thank you very much, John.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
За хүн үзэгчдээ өнөөдөр манай de facto нэвтрүүлгийн зочноор Мобиком компани гүйцэтгэх захирал Ноён Дэвид Холлидэй орлоо. Баярлалаа.
За энэ хурал битлээ дээ. Яй.
Таалагдж байна уу?
Сайхан идэм аа.
Яндаа нэвд авчруулна шүү дээ.
Яндаа.
Сууч.
Яндаа та 9-7 хоног урамшуулалт аян эхэллээ. Мобиком